The Chicago Bulls finally did it. They cleaned house. They removed AK, Eversley. They're both out. We're stepping into a brand new era of Chicago Bulls basketball, but with a caveat. And the Chicago Bulls wanting Billy Donovan to stay on and reportedly doing everything to keep Billy Donovan in-house. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about that the blow-up now in the front office is one thing, but what comes afterwards is the most important thing. We're talking about the candidates that could replace AK and Eversley. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And things got real. The Chicago Bulls finally blew up their front office. This was something that was speculated initially by Joe Cowley. We've had other articles saying, things are going to happen in 10 days, but this seemed like it was predicated by the University of North Carolina announced that Mike Malone was going to be their new head coach. Only a couple hours later, we heard that the Bulls have fired AK and Eversley. We'll get more on the Billy Donovan aspect of this and the Bulls reportedly doing everything in their power to try to keep Billy Donovan on as the head coach. But this is a new era. This move was overdue. You look at AK's first kind of move at taking over this team. It was drafting Patrick Williams, which has been a monumental failure, right? Now, he's made some moves other than that, trading for Nikola Vucevic, giving up Wendell Carter. The Wendell Carter piece of that wasn't bad. The 2 first-round picks that you end up giving up, which is the price of an all-star. You then filtered in that with the offseason by sending more picks out for Lonzo. You sent another pick out. You eventually got back for DeMar DeRozan. And you signed Alex Caruso, which was from the first trade deadline of the move for Vooch through that first free agency was a nice period and stretch for AK and Marc Eversley, and it really did seem like the Bulls were setting the groundwork to build for something. But then a game against the Golden State Warriors, Alonzo and Zach LaVine both went down with injury, and it was never the same, right? It basically got worse year after year. And when you look at, it's just a bunch of missed opportunities for the Chicago Bulls, miss value on players, like misrecognizing when you should move off things. And a lot of things that a lot of you guys have talked about for years, that's what ultimately was the undoing on Artūras, Karnišovas, and Marc Eversley. And it was rightfully so. Like, they got themselves up out of here. It was by the result of what they decided to do or did not do, and that's just where it left this team at. And so now the Bulls are heading into a new era, and a front office means this, right? I still want to be clear here, right? What a new front office really does mean. There is still risk of another roster gut or retool. Now, the Bulls roster has recently been gutted. So the chances of another gutting, which really at this point you're looking at the talent that we have going forward that is under contract is Josh Giddey, Buzelis, Rob Dillingham's under contract, Leonard Miller's under contract as well. You got Isaac Okoro, Patrick Williams, of course, is unfortunately under contract. Noah Essengay, Trey Jones, and Jalen Smith, right? Like, those are your guys, your 9 players that are under contract. You have 6 roster spots open to move around with this offseason, right? And so what's the chances of any of those guys being moved? That's a question that you have here. And I think it really comes down to whoever is running the show and who comes in here, how quickly they think that they can turn some things around. Because, again, Trey Jones and Jalen Smith, I know Bulls fans love them, rightfully so. They are 2 people that have really played really well for the Chicago Bulls considering their contract and their role. But if the new front office comes in here and they're like, you know what, it's gonna take a little bit longer. We're not gonna try to rush this to get this team back to competitiveness. We're going, to go all in and try to maximize on picks or whatever it is. You can trade Jalen and Trey and get some margin of pick back. I don't know what level that is. We'll have to see what the market ends up being, but you could possibly do that, right? And how do they feel about Josh Giddey and the way that you have to build specifically around Josh Giddey? With him as a pivot on your team. And then, of course, the high upside of Buzelis. That is the thing. Now, luckily, the Bulls have basically a clean slate. They have no long-term bad money on their books but Patrick Williams. That is literally the only bad long-term money that they have. And even then, it's a $19 million contract. Now, I've seen people say, oh, well, the new guy's definitely going to come in and we're going to waive it. You got to keep in mind, things like wave and stretch are there, but they're there when you like the Bulls and the amount of cap space they have right now. Patrick Williams' contract is not stopping them from going after free agents if that's what they want to do, right? Now, and that's just the business aspect of it. Now, let's say that the Bulls have Peyton Watson and they have Walker Kessler available, and both want to sign with the Chicago Bulls, but they only have enough. They need a little bit more on that offer sheet. Maybe then they do something like that. But for those that are expecting Patrick Williams to just be gone now because of the new front office, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but it just may not happen because, again, it's about the management of assets. When you wave and stretch, it just stretches the money out long term, whereas, we'll see, right, what happens there. But with 3 years left on the deal, I don't know if they do something like that, but we shall see, right? But that's the next part of it, is that whenever the names are done, who are they going to look to bring in that could end up, and how do they view the roster, right? That's, of course, the next step. That's the next thing. Billy Donovan is apparently the Bulls are going to reportedly, and we'll talk about this, want whoever comes in is keep on Billy Donovan. Talk about that. That's them spinning the block again, but we'll talk about that. But let's talk about some of the names that have been mentioned as far as who the Bulls could target, right? I have a list of underrated names, and I have a list of rumors and a list of big names that they can go after. So, of course, we talked about Bob Myers before. Bob Myers has been mentioned as a name. He built that Warriors team. He had a lot of misses towards the end of that. And some people, I've seen some of you guys' reactions. Some people have reacted to that basically saying, well, does Bob Myers do what he does if it wasn't for Steph? And here's the thing that I got to say to y'all on that one. Every GM, every president wants to draft a player that then makes it easy on them. So I'm not saying that it's like people kind of knock Jerry Krause to the Bulls because, well, you got Michael Jordan, yeah, but still build. You've seen it. You see it now more than ever. You can get a piece, and if you don't build smartly around that piece, you don't do shit with them. You could have a star level player and just be middling success, right? So I don't necessarily knock Bob Myers for that. There are some things, and as I talked about in yesterday's episode, I talked about all his best moves and all of his worst moves. There were, especially towards the end of that, there are a lot of questionable moves there, so you can't overlook that. And that's a reality there, right? But so Bob Myers is a name that's all been mentioned there. A name that also has been mentioned that not a lot of people have talked about is somebody who was formerly with the Chicago Bulls. That's Minnesota Timberwolves general manager Matt Lloyd, right? Who began his career as a PR intern before making his way up to the office. He actually, started, working with the the Minnesota Timberwolves as their senior VP of operations in 2024. With that, he was one of the big decision makers in the Carl Anthony trade, and that got Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. And so one of the things that would Matt Lloyd want to come in and do a rebuild, right? That's somebody who's well regarded around the league. And we'll see, right? The Bulls, with the assets they have, the open cap space, the open roster, all their own first-round picks, it can definitely make it there. So we'll see, right? But Matt Lloyd, somebody who did work with the Chicago Bulls before as, again, an intern, maybe they can make it. And we've seen this happen around, and we know, again, the Reinsdorfs, they typically keep things in the family. The hiring AK and Eversley was one of the first time they went completely out the side of the family for their front office in a long time, right? So Matt Lloyd is a name that's been mentioned out there, and we'll see, right, if Matt Lloyd's there. Of course, when you look at other big swings, right? So those are the rumors. Oh, well, I forgot about that. Masai Ujiri also was mentioned, and reportedly part of the rumor, it would be that Luol Deng would also come over as part of his staff. So Ujiri is somebody who, Masai, he built that Toronto Raptors team that ended up winning a title. And he did great work there. He built through the draft to a certain degree, also made some smart trades to a degree, things like that. But he came in with the roster and found a way, but went out and got Kawhi Leonard and added that to the team, and then it ended up working out for them, and they ended up getting a title out of it. Now, he's been one of the best hugely regarded execs around the league. And so the question now becomes about, does he want to come here to Chicago? Reportedly, Dallas is interested. Dallas is going to be interested in a lot of these guys that we mentioned as well for the Bulls. But Masai Ujiri and Luol Deng coming here would be something that I think a lot of people would actually, like, because again, it kind of goes with what the Reinsdorfs like to have people in the family, right? So Luol Deng, if he coming over as an exec, it'd be similar to John Paxson, how he worked himself up under Jerry Krause and eventually took over that. We've heard that Ujiri did want to get back into the league. He does want to build another title contender. He also started off with the Denver Nuggets. It is what it is. He's supposed to be running the Toronto Tempo, but that's a WNBA team. If the NBA came calling and gave him an opportunity to do that, I doubt that he would turn it down. That's if you want to get there. So that, but other big swings that the Bulls can take. We have a voicemail on this, so I'm not going to get deep into this. We'll get into Brandon L. Jets. But people have brought up Sam Presti. Now, Sam Presti, the current GM of the Oklahoma City Thunder. The question is that if you can get him to come in here as a president of basketball operations, would be a promotion for him. I say this, right? And I get it. Sam Presti came into a situation where he was able to trade players, stack up draft picks, but what he's done and just moved smart since then. If the Bulls can get Sam Presti is somebody that I would be willing, no matter what the Bulls had to do. If Sam Presti was like, yeah, I'll come over here and talk to you guys. Keep in mind, he also worked with Billy Donovan. So if the Reinsdorfs do want Billy Donovan to stay on with this team, maybe somebody that does that. He's right now the executive vice president and general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the president of basketball ops would absolutely be a promotion for him. Would he be willing to leave the OKC Thunder? I don't know, man. Now, if they win another title this year, he can say he got 2 titles. He saw that. He built that team up. But would he want to leave before the chance of a three-peat? I don't know. Right now, maybe they get bounced out the finals, and maybe. I just think the Sam Presti thing is a long shot, but we'll talk about more about that when we get into Jets voicemail. The other one is the Grizzlies' current president. That's Zach Kleiman. And now I know hearing things from the Grizzlies is going to be something that not a lot of people like to hear, right? But let's be clear here, right? They've made 4 postseasons since his time there. He finished with 51-plus wins twice. And then, of course, the Ja Morant stuff happened, the injury stuff happened, and there's done with that. But I do think with this one, right, we don't even know if Kleiman has the interest to leave the Memphis Grizzlies. But if he does, he is a big swing that they could take. He's somebody who's never been afraid to make very aggressive moves and aggressive swings, goes out and gets his guys. Look at the Zach Edey part of it. Look at the Cedric Coward part of it, trading Desmond Bane. Like, he's just not afraid to make the big moves. Now, that doesn't mean that all those big swings work, but he's not afraid to make it. Trading Jaren Jackson Jr. as well, noticing, hey, we're going to have to go on a reset of this, and noticing and stacking up picks, striking while the value was actually high, right? That's something that the Chicago Bulls have been missing out on. So I do think that Zach Kleiman could be a guy there. Next up, Koby Altman. Now, this is an interesting guy because we've seen during his time with Cleveland, right, that they went to the finals when it came down to that. That was Altman's first year in 2017-18. And they went they did a full rebuild after LeBron James left them again, right? And look where they are now. He took a 22-win team to a 44-win team in 2021-22. And he also is one of those GMs that are very aggressive about going out and getting their guys. Now, we do not know if he plans on leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers, but again, that's something to look out for. So those are the big swing names that the Bulls could go after. Some of the other names that are kind of more functional. A lot of people want to go off that Oklahoma City tree. There's a guy named Rob Hennigan there in Oklahoma who I think if you're trying to replicate that Oklahoma City, as my light goes out, if you're trying to replicate what the OKC Thunder, and there are going to be a lot of teams that try to replicate that and we see that, right? When teams have success, you get pieces of your front office staff picked off on. Now, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. We did that with AK and with Denver, right? But Rob Hennigan has been Sam Presti's right-hand man. So if you thought about going after Sam Presti, Rob Hennigan is a guy that's learned directly from Sam Presti. Now, that does not always mean that you have success when you are the man. We saw that with AK, but he is somebody that could be considered, and he is somebody that's also widely regarded around the league, right? So you want to go young, you want to go innovative. He's a guy that does both those things. So I like that. Another guy that you talk about is Adam Simon with the Miami Heat. Now, Heat culture, we know that that's a thing. He's been the vice president of basketball operations and the assistant general manager there for 5 seasons. He's been part of the Heat organization for 29 years because, again, the Heat do it right. They build people up throughout their organization, right? And so when you look at all the departures and all the people that have left there, Simon, has been somebody that's there and has learned. And, Pat Riley doesn't seem like he's leaving anytime soon, right? So, because of that, could Adam Simon come over there? And keep in mind, one of my guys that I want to be the next head coach of the Bulls is Chris Quinn. So if you hire Adam Simon and you do decide to move on from Billy Donovan, he might have the inside edge to get Chris Quinn in here. So there's a little bit of my own, desires there. And then lastly, Mike Zarin with the Boston Celtics. Right now, we'll see. The Celtics, again, are another guy who worked people up through their organization. He's born and raised a Celtics fan, so that's somebody who may not want to be there. He started working for that team as an unpaid intern, and now is the VP of basketball operations, and team council. So, but it's another name to keep an eye out on. Basically, what I'm saying here is that there are a lot of candidates here that can replace this job, from winning teams, from winning coaches that you can come over and bring and that still have experience. And it doesn't always have to be the big name. I get it, big fish hunting and the names that more kind of casual fans know, but there are other names that you can go out here and they make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bulls. And let's see if they're going to do that. With that said, though, I do want to talk about the Billy Donovan part of this. So I mentioned how yesterday we got word that, Mike Malone, the former Denver Nuggets coach, is actually taking the UNC job, which then a couple of hours later, we got announced that AK and Eversley were fired. So, it does feel like it kind of went hand in hand that basically, I don't know if Billy informed UNC, hey, no, I'm going to stay here in Chicago, and then they moved to Mike Malone, or UNC hired Mike Malone, and then the Bulls front office or the Bulls ownership realized, all right, bet this is our opportunity now to keep Billy Donovan. And now we're going to go ahead and do what reportedly, again, via Joe Cowley, Billy wanted and not have to work with AK anymore. So that's what it comes down to, right? Reportedly that the conversations with Mike Malone and UNC picked up during the Final Four weekend. And, he had true interest in that and they decided to hire him. But what does that now mean for Billy Donovan, right? Reportedly, Billy Donovan was frustrated with the decisions made by AK and Eversley, and that's what led you here, right? And so now with missing out on the UNC job, reportedly this one comes from Clutch Point, says this: Donovan remains fully committed to finish the season with the Bulls before having discussions with Reinsdorf and other prominent leaders of the organization about his future. So it does not seem like Billy Donovan is still locked in with necessarily staying here, but that reportedly the Reinsdorfs want him to stay. Now, I said earlier in the show that there was some old kind of trauma and demons showing by the Reinsdorfs here, right? When AK took over the team, they wanted AK to think about keeping on Boylan, right? And now reportedly, before you even hire your new president or GM, you're already trying to keep Billy Donovan. I'm of the mindset that if you hire somebody in that you trust to do their job, you let them do their job. Meaning that if they want to move on from the coach, you got to let them do that. You have to let them do that. There's no knock on Billy Donovan. I would be saying that about anybody who's the head coach, unless they were like a coach that won 15 titles. That's won 3 titles for you or something, right? But I think you have to allow your new president, allow your new president to hire his GM, allow them to hire their coach. I think you have to do that. Right now, the chances are, especially depending on you could already know that guy wants to keep on Billy Donovan or not. I just think this is just some old Reinsdorfian type stuff that we're seeing here. And the fact that you are already basically signaling in, could that limit your pool of people that could be interested in this job? If somebody's interested, for example, if Bob Myers and Sam Presti, I'm just using the 2 bigger names, wanted to come in here and say, hey, listen, we want to come to Chicago, but the moment they hear, well, we want you to keep Billy, and they're just like, listen, if we're starting this relationship off this way where I don't even get to decide, like, let me come to you and say, hey, no, I want to keep Billy on. If you're already saying we want you to keep on Billy and already taking away my power of decision from the job that I have, I'm not even going to be really interested in the position. Like, that is a legitimate thing that could happen. I'm saying could because I'm just talking about the possibilities. So that's something I think you have to look out for. Now, reportedly, this is still Billy Donovan's decision. We'll see what he wants. Billy, the initial report was that he was thinking about taking a year away to reassess what he wants to do from the profession. That was the first rumor. The UNC stuff started popping up after that, right? So if we go back to the default, to the original, Billy Donovan still may want to take a year away to decide his future anyway. And we'll see if that happens there. It's just a little bit of a question to me of why a front office does not continually learn from their mistakes and still seemingly is not learning from the fact that you cannot keep trying to bring in something new and bring old baggage with you into that something new. That's just my thing of. So, there is, of course, the possibility of staying on as the coach. We got reports that he really has no interest in going into the front office. Now, he'd be willing to consult if asked about the hirings in the front office, but it does not seem like Billy Donovan really wants to stay or really wants to go into the front office anyway. So we'll see what happens in that one. But I think all this comes back down to this. The job is still attractive for the Chicago Bulls. $60 million in cap space, full control over your draft picks, young talent in Giddey, Modest, and Noah Essengate, and a top 10 pick this year that you can look to work with, decide which one of those guys who you believe in, and no long-term bad contract. So I think overall, there should be people interested. I just don't know if the Reinsdorf's insistence on keeping Billy Donovan could actually cause them to maybe miss out on something on some candidates. But let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. I do want to talk about this though, right? Is that let's get back into basketball. So of course, Michigan won the NCAA tournament, which people are now talking about Yaxel completely moving up. Bleacher Nation in their mock draft has him going before Darren Peterson now, which is fucking crazy to me. You have Yaxel Lindenberg going before Darren Peterson in your mock. That's a bit of a question mark there, right? I don't understand that part of it. But a player that I do like in Keaton Wagler, seems like his draft stock has slipped because of the Final Four, right? And so I think now you have Mullins, who's rising, Lindenberg, who's rising, right? The draft matters. This draft is going to be huge for the Chicago Bulls, and especially it's going to be now the first draft of a new GM and new president of basketball operations, one that hopefully is going to be hit more on their first round pick. So we'll see what ends up happening. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'll say this. We shall see how this works out for the Chicago Bulls, because once again, we moved on from Garpax, and a lot of people said, well, it can't get worse than Garpax, and we did. Now, I'm not hoping for that. I hope that the Bulls learn their lesson. They get somebody in here who can actually run this team and get us to a new era, and we're going to see with that. But it all starts with the draft. Well, it starts first with your hiring now, right? And then it starts with the draft. And so, you know, a player that I like, Keaton Wagler, if he does slip and he's there, I still love Braden Burries, but we kind of got to wait till we know what's going to happen with the coach, the mindset, in the front office. So we shall see. But we got a voicemail that I said we're going to get into. This one comes from the General, Brendan L. Jet.
Yo, what's going on, Haize? This is Brendan L. Jet, the General here. As you can tell, very, very excited to hear about the news that AK and Marc Eversley is now history as a part of the Bulls organization. However, thinking of a possible replacement for him. It's a long shot, but do what you got to do to get Sam Presti up in the building. It'll be a good promotion for him to go from the GM of the Thunder to the vice president of basketball operations. I know that Dallas has been looking for him as well to take over there, but I think it would be a good opportunity for Sam to come over. It may not happen, but hey, our brother can dream. Like, give him what he needs, pay him anything that you need to pay him, and let him build his vision on his own. He can hire his own GM as well as I know that him and Billy got history in the past, but if Billy wants to stay, they have worked together. But if he doesn't want to stay, and hey, Sam Presti can pick his own coach. So whichever direction that Presti wants to go, hey, by all means do so. But get that man up in the building. He's still young at 48, but he has a good basketball mind. He has a great scouting eye, and he has hit on so many draft picks, which the Bulls have the abundance of right now, very similar to what the Thunder had right after they traded Paul George and Westbrook. Please let me know your thoughts, Haize. Talk to you later. Peace.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. Like, if you can lure Sam, it would be one of the biggest coups to be able to learn to lure Sam Presti away from the Thunder to come and run this goddamn organization. And if you have any chance to do that, you do that. If Sam Presti even picks up the phone to listen to a call from the Reinsdorfs to come over to Chicago, if he blesses the Bulls with even taking a call, you offer every single thing possible. You do that. You offer him, if he wants to change the coach, you offer him that. Hell, if he wants a statue, you do that from the get-go, right? Like, if Sam Presti's willing to come to Chicago, you've got to put the full court press on him and bring him to Chicago. That's just my opinion on it. We'll see. I doubt that he leaves, but it would be very interesting to hear if the Bulls do even get a meeting with Sam Presti, a call from Sam Presti, and if they're really aggressively going after a GM of that caliber. Because to me, that would say that this ownership realizes, hey, we need some championship pedigree in this building. We'll see. Like I always say with this team, until the Bulls have somebody that cares more about winning than anything else, we're going to fail as an organization. So we'll see, right? But for years, the Bulls have been stuck in the middle. Not bad enough, not good enough, right? Now, the reset has really started happening here. And the question is do you trust this organization to finally get it right? Who do you want running the Chicago Bulls? Do you keep Billy Donovan or move on? And how do you feel about players like Giddey, Modest, Leonard Miller, and Noah Essengate, where their place could be now with new eyes coming over to this team. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.